Hello, this is Julie Mansell from Gem Ministries International, and we left off last time with the Israelites at the foot of Mount Sinai, and they just accepted or rejected the grant covenant, and they now had a kinship covenant with God. And we then see the journey of the Israelites as they wander around the wilderness for 40 years until that generation died off, and then we get to a stage where Moses is at the end of his life and God takes him away, and Joshua starts to become the leader of the Israelites. But what happens with a kinship covenant is that once one party of the covenant dies, then the terms of the covenant are redefined, looking at how the parties have behaved during that period. And a new covenant is made with the new leader, and the new leader in this case was Joshua. So when we look at what Israel had done over that traveling with their covenant they had with God, they had constantly broken the covenant with him. And so when Moses died and Joshua took over leading the Israelites, we get some new terms being created in the covenant, and the covenant turns from a kingship covenant to a vassal covenant. And this was the worst point in the history of Israel. They had gone down to the very lowest and very worst kind of covenant, and God in this covenant was the superior God and told the inferior people, that's the Israelites, what to do and how to do it. And we see the whole terms of this covenant laid out in the book of Deuteronomy. The whole book of Deuteronomy is the canon around the covenant, the vassal covenant that the Israelites now had. And you remember when we talked earlier about the covenant canons, how when we look at the Bible, the various parts of the Bible are all the canons, all the story, the history, the poetry, the prophets that surround the particular covenant that God is working through with his people. And Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy, is the canon of the covenant, the vassal covenant that God made with Joshua after Moses' death. And the blessings and the cursings that we read in towards the end of Deuteronomy are the punishments for failing to keep your side of the bargain. And as I said in the last video, that I will do a little bit more in-depth teaching around exactly what happened with the Israelites and how they progressed through their journeys with God. But now, originally at Sinai, they were offered a grant covenant. They said no to Moses. They took a kinship covenant up, and then we're now at the stage with them where they are in a vassal covenant. And understanding that progression downwards in covenant quality, if you like, helps us to understand the things that are going on in Scripture, where we see God killing and punishing and the wrath of God coming out on the people. So that really helps us to understand, and that has just been a very teeny little introduction to what is going on with the Israelites at that point. See you next time.